Hey everybody, it is You Had to Ask, the show where I answer your questions, and this week my first question comes from Kiroma Kiyato Kagaru, who says, Saikin do Yahoo Konnichiwa from Japan, Steve. How are you, your lovely wife, and your amazing cat doing? Hopefully well. Steve, I have a problem. I'm an atheist, but I feel like a hypocrite. I would never visit a haunted house, I would not play with a Ouija board, or buy a haunted doll. Also, when I watch horror movies about ghosts, demons, Satan, or anything supernatural, I get scared to the point where I can't sleep without the TV on and my cat next to me in the bed. I start feeling this creepy feeling where I have to check behind the curtains when I'm feeding the toilet, or I run up the stairs really fast, so the thing does not catch me feeling. I know there is no evidence for God or angels, demons, ghosts, etc., but why do I still fear the things I have listed? Can you help me, please? I need you. Well, just because you're an atheist, and we as atheists consider that to be the most rational position regarding the existence of gods, and most people include the supernatural in that as well, it doesn't mean that you are constantly going to be reacting to things in the most rational way. We all have irrational fears, whether we're atheists or theists or whatever we are. And we all have feelings that come from our experiences or what we've been taught about things or what certain objects or certain experiences mean to us. And they might not be completely rational. If you fear, using a Ouija board, or you get creeped out by things with supernatural themes, just because you're an atheist doesn't mean you're immune to that. And it doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. It just means you're normal. It just means you respond to certain stimuli. You have emotional reactions to things. It's nothing really to be ashamed of. It's nothing that you should worry about. I'm an atheist, I shouldn't feel this way. I don't think that's it at all. You can be afraid of stuff. You can be creeped out by ghosts and by haunted houses and Ouija boards and supernatural movies. That's okay. It's not ideal. Of course, you'd rather not feel that way. You'd rather not be creeped out by those things. It probably sucks to feel that fear. I've been afraid of things like that before throughout my life, and it's not something we welcome, but it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, and it doesn't mean that you're a hypocrite or that you're somehow betraying atheism in some way. It's not that at all, so please don't think of yourself that way. As for what you can do about it, I am not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I don't know what the best way is for you to deal with irrational fears, other than maybe just desensitizing yourself to it. Maybe if you fear, start small. Start with something small. Like maybe if you fear using a Ouija board, have some friends come over and just, suck it up and summon your courage and use the Ouija board. Just try it. Just you do it for as long as you can stand to do it before you get too afraid and you have to stop. And just sort of build up a tolerance, build up your courage. And maybe, hopefully, eventually, as you do it over and over again, you will realize that there's nothing to be afraid of. And it'll help you overcome that fear. That's just a suggestion. Again, I'm not qualified really to advise you on what to do, but that general idea makes sense to me. And again, it doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Atheists are allowed to have irrational fears too. It's perfectly normal. Atheistic conclusion. Since we can't all be experts on all things at all times, we depend on those whose opinions we trust to fill in the blanks for us sometimes. Now, if you asked me before I was aware of the feminist presence on the net, if I was a feminist, I would have said yes. I thought the term insinuated a struggle for equality against a male bias. This is not the impression I have anymore. But there are people such as yourself who do support feminism without getting too specific. It seems clear to me that the message of the feminist movement is not that inequality is wrong, but it is now their turn to be unjust. And if you don't agree with us 100%, then you are a rape-supporting, woman-hating, evil male with white privilege, which I would argue is wealth privilege. This is a message I just cannot get behind, yet it is the one I see, and the one I'm told if I don't accept wholeheartedly, I don't believe in equality. Please explain your position. I do not think that those things you described speak for the feminist movement as a whole, nor do I think that they are as prevalent, even on the internet, which, granted, is much more emotionally charged and much more given to hyperbolic, exaggerated reactions to things than maybe in the real world or in the academic world or in another arena. I don't think that those sorts of feelings and those sorts of positions necessarily speak for feminism. My position as a feminist is pretty much what you describe early on in your question. The struggle for gender equality against a male bias. I believe gender inequality exists. I believe it's a real thing that affects people's lives. I believe the nature of that gender inequality is for the most part, typically men are privileged and women are underprivileged. I think that's just the situation, and I think we need to correct that by improving the station of women, by advocating for the rights and for the privileges of women. And I really, as a feminist, I really don't feel like I need to get any more complicated than that. That is my basic feminist stance. Gender inequality exists, it disadvantages women, it's a bad thing, and we should do something about it. Narration. Hey Steve, what's your opinion of long-distance relationships that start long distance? My significant other and I met on a Minecraft server for trans people, and recently she helped me survive a 3-day suicidal episode, and now we're madly in love. She plans on visiting me in June. I'm wondering what you think of the whole thing aside from the obvious proceed with caution. Thanks, Holly from Facebook. As for long-distance relationships, I don't think there's inherently anything wrong with them. I think a lot of it has to do with just managing expectations. I mean, if you guys, I don't know what your situation is, if you guys have talked on Skype or if you've been able to see each other and communicate, verbally and visually, you just have never been in the same room with each other. That to me is a little better. When I was dating, quote unquote, not that I ever really dated, but before I was married, when I was single, Skype didn't exist. Google Hangouts didn't exist. So if you had a long distance relationship with someone, the only way you would really be able to speak to each other in real time, other than just text-based chat, was on the phone. So you're always getting like a limited view of the person, And even back then, I think that sort of thing could work if the right two people connected that way. And now it feels like almost like people who have long-distance relationships today, who have things like Skype and FaceTime and Google Hangouts, so you can actually have a face-to-face conversation even across a great distance. They're almost spoiled compared to how people had to do it, 15, 20 years ago. That I don't see anything wrong with it. I think as long as you understand that even with that level of interactivity, there will still be some differences that maybe you didn't anticipate. There will still be some adjustments to make when you actually are together physically. As long as you account for that, and you adjust your expectations accordingly, and you meet each other, and you find that you have that same chemistry, and you get along just as well in person as you do online, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I'm good luck. I hope that the visit in June goes very well. David Bojang. Hey Steve, why is it that you liberal atheists will criticize Christianity but not Islam, and frame any criticism of Islam as Islamophobic? Is it that you see Muslims as an oppressed minority, or do you think it is unfair to say Islam is more violent than Christianity? I mean, where in the 21st century world are Christians cutting people's heads off? Where are the Christian suicide bombers? Thanks. I don't think it's fair to say that liberal atheists never have anything critical to say about Islam, nor do I think it's fair to say that we consider all forms of criticism of Islam to be Islamophobic. I certainly don't think that I feel that way. I've said critical things about Islam in the past. And really, I went back a few months ago and watched some of my older 5 Stupid Things videos about Islam and about Muhammad. And even though if I made them today, I might have a slightly different tone to them. I might not be quite as derogatory or combative toward Muslims as I was back then. My essential points would be the same. And one of my essential points that I made in those videos is that Islam is ultimately not any different than Christianity or other faiths. And I think that's where you cross the line into Islamophobia. There's nothing wrong with criticizing Islam. There's nothing wrong with criticizing even the way people are treated in Islamic cultures. I have a huge problem with the way women are treated in Islamic cultures. I have a huge problem with the way gay people are treated in Islamic cultures. I think that there are strides that need to be made. But I don't think that those problems I have are the result of Islam itself being a uniquely bad faith. I don't think it's any better or worse than Christianity or Judaism. I think all of the major monotheisms have histories of violence and histories of oppression and histories of very strict roles for certain groups. I don't think that Islam is any more guilty of those sorts of crimes than any other religion. And I think when you try to say that it is, or you try to use the present barbarism of certain fundamentalist Muslims in the world and as some sort of an argument that, well, this is what Islam really is, I don't think that's any more fair or any more true than if you were to take the members of Hutari or the Westboro Baptists or some radical fringe, potentially violent or hate speech spewing group of Christians and say, aha, see, those are the true Christians. We should make these the group to speak for Christianity. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's fair to attempt to use the terrorists and the barbarians of ISIS as the most authentic spokespeople for Islam. I just don't think that's accurate, and I don't think that's fair, and I'm not going to fucking do it. And if you think that that is being too soft on Islam, I'm sorry, but that's just not. I'm just not going to do that. I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's fair, and I wouldn't do that to Christians. I would hope that no one would do that to atheists, and I'm not going to do it to Muslims. Cynic Dubstep. I love your channel, Steve. I really truly do. Such a great collection of content by a truly talented and intelligent person. But every time you mention that you like people like Jenny McDermott, Ryan Wiley, and Anita, it makes me cringe with disgust and disbelief. It's like your brain shuts off if the word feminist is involved. I hate to say it, but you seem to have the same cognitive dissonance that creationists, or any fundamentalists, have in regard to feminist personalities. I wholly agree that we should all be treated equally in regards to race, gender, sex, etc. I'm half Somali and half white, for fuck's sake. But I don't really get why all these new wave internet feminists are complaining about such trivial non-issues, video games, threats from obvious trolls, etc., when there are truly horrific misogynistic things going on in other parts of the world, i.e. sex slavery of children, mostly girls, genital mutilation of girls, complete and total oppression of women via Islam, etc. Why don't they ever address those issues? Why the blatant disregard for meaningful conversation? Well, I think I mentioned in the answer to a previous question in this video that I'm troubled by the way women are treated in many Islamic countries. And look, you're right. All those things you mentioned, the female circumcision and sex slavery and all these other things, these are horrific problems. And they do affect women, and they are important. And people should be worried about them, and we should be concerned and aware of these problems, and we should be doing what we can to attack them and alleviate them and make things better for the victims of these things. But that doesn't mean that it's illegitimate to criticize sexist tropes in video games or to call out sort of lesser forms of sexism in our culture as compared to those horrific crimes that are being committed in other parts of the world. It's a little bit like saying that you shouldn't donate to charity unless you're going to donate to a charity that feeds hungry children or a charity that supports AIDS research. Like if I have some money to spend and I want to donate it to charity and I decide for whatever reasons of my own that I want to donate it to the UCLA Film Library or some kind of, film preservation society. Obviously, preserving film and movie stuff is not nearly as important as feeding starving people or genetic research or AIDS research. Obviously, it's very lopsided in terms of how important those things are. But it doesn't mean that I have to feel like an asshole for donating to this cause when this much greater cause exists. There are a lot of us who are thankfully very interested and very engaged with these issues. And just because people like the folks you mentioned, some of whom I actually am proud and happy to know and consider friends or at least acquaintances of mine, just because they are interested in critiquing sexism in media as opposed to attacking and advocating against sexism and misogyny in terms of atrocities being committed in the other parts of the world, or even in this country. I don't mean to absolve us of those sorts of things. We have problems in this country as well. Campus rape, for instance, rape in general, spousal abuse, domestic violence. Just because they're interested in one particular area doesn't mean that that's illegitimate because they should be worrying about these other things. That's just a matter of what you feel drawn to, a matter of your own perspective, and a matter of what skills you have to bring to bear. I know personally, I don't feel as capable or as within my element to discuss those really horrific crimes that you mentioned. I feel my own skill set, my own knowledge, my own frame of reference is much more useful addressing things like media, critiquing movies, critiquing our popular culture, or at least our American culture. I feel like I am much more of use doing that sort of thing than I would be doing the other thing. So there's that to consider too. Just because there are worse things in the world to worry about doesn't mean that a person is doing something wrong or is some kind of an asshole because they're worrying about something that maybe is a little bit less severe. Christy Riverwood, Dear Steve, as a female atheist, I encounter misconceptions about atheists, but I also notice that some atheists also at times spread misconceptions about Christians, such as if you are a Christian, you are not living your life to the fullest because you think there's another one. Or if heaven is real, Christians should be happy when someone dies because they're in a better place. So deep down, they don't really believe it. We don't like it when Christians do the whole, you're not really an atheist, you just want to sin, deep down you believe attitude. So I feel we should be a more mature, compassionate, and understanding community when it comes to this. What do you think of what I'm saying? I agree with every word you just said. I hate it. I bristle when I hear Christians presuming to tell me what it means that I'm an atheist, and instead of trusting me and accepting my description of what it is. And I try not to do that to Christians. I try to direct my critiques and my challenges and my opposition to the claims of the faith and maybe the tactics or the arguments used by defenders of the faith. But I try very hard, and I don't always succeed, but I try very hard not to attack or denigrate Christians themselves or religious believers themselves, whatever background they come from. I agree with you 100%. I don't think that's right. I don't think we would like it, or I don't think we do like it when religious folks do it to us, and I don't think we should do it to them. I agree with you 100%. I couldn't have said it better myself. Secular Scholar. Hey Steve, thanks again for that shout out you did for Allie. Anyway, I have a stuffed animal that was her favorite. That is a pink dog she called Pinku. It was originally given to me by some friends of mine as a sort of a gag gift. I didn't really think much of it then. Later, Allie saw it and asked if she could have it, to which I said, sure. It became her favorite stuffed animal after that, and she slept with it constantly. Now that I have it back, I can't stand the thought of parting with it. When I hold it close to me, I can feel her love coming off of it. Now, some people would say that she imparted a psychic imprint onto it, while others would say it's just a psychological association, a placebo. What are your thoughts? P.S. To everyone, if you wish to shout out a loved one's name to the heavens, it's not like I or Steve could or would stop you, but you have my blessing to do so. The only thing I ask is that you call it an Allie shout out when you do. Thanks. To take the last bit first, I think the idea of an Allie shout out is a great idea. I know when I did my Allie shout out that you asked me to do, it just felt so good to do. And I didn't even know Allie. I did not have that privilege. But it just physically, shouting the name outdoors to the heavens. There was something so invigorating and it just exhilarating, and it just felt really, really good to do. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. And if anybody else wants to do something like that to sort of deal with grief or to memorialize a person, I would highly recommend it. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And to do it, and to sort of do it also in memory of Allie as well as the other person's loved one, I think would be a wonderful, wonderful thing. I think it's psychological. I think the feeling that you feel when you hug the stuffed animal and you feel her love, I think it's psychological. But that doesn't mean that it's not real. I get a little impatient when people, when they say something like, well, it's all in your head, or, you're just imagining it. You really do feel those feelings. They're there. Whether they are the result of her leaving a psychic imprint, whatever that means, or whether they are the result of just you associating this object, this stuffed animal, so closely with the person you loved who isn't there anymore. The feelings are real. They're there. They matter. They mean something to you. That's what's important. I wouldn't worry about it beyond that. I think it's a little misleading to call it a placebo effect. I do think it's psychological. I think it's because you loved her and you miss her and you associate this stuffed animal with her. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And the feelings you feel are real and are important. And I'm glad that you feel them. I imagine even though it's sad, it also probably helps a little bit. To have that feeling of connection with her, even though she's not here anymore. So no, I don't think it's psychic. I think it's psychological, but that doesn't mean that it ain't there. Speaking of things that ain't there, that was a thunderclap that ain't really there, which means that it is time for
the lightning round. Rapid fire questions, glib and adequate answers.
Alan Olmert, how do you tell your family that you're agnostic without a big fight? I don't know. I didn't make a big deal about it to mine. I just sort of let the cat out of the bag, and then I didn't make a big deal about it. It's not really a topic of conversation. I mean, I'm not agnostic. I identify as atheist, but I guess it's the same sort of thing. How do you tell your family that you are? I just tell them, and then I don't make a big deal about it. It honestly, for me anyway, with my family, it just doesn't come up that often, so it's never been an issue. Ahoyerno, question for a non-atheist question. Are you circumcised? And what's your opinion on the circumcision business? Is it a choice that parents should be able to make for their kids? In Belgium, it's rare, but in the USA, it's rather prevalent, I heard. Yeah, I think it is. It's pretty prevalent over here. I am circumcised. I am kind of indifferent to it. I know a lot of people get really angry about it. I personally don't feel like I was robbed of anything. I'm perfectly fine with being circumcised. But when I think about it, it is a little weird. I do kind of think maybe parents shouldn't have that option, or at least that sort of thing shouldn't be done, because it's sort of a cultural, religious thing. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe it would be better off if we just stopped doing that. But for me personally, I'm okay with it. Michael Bay's diarrhea. Lightning round. Steve, my mom is a hardcore Atheist-Christian, and she went into my YouTube history and saw a bunch of your videos. Now she is aware that I watch you and has me under her radar. Last week I was watching 5 Stupid Things About Jesus, and she walked in on me. I switched it to porn, so it would be easier to explain. What should I do? Well, clearly you need to have some porn open in a tab on your browser at all times. So if your mom does happen to come in while you're watching some atheist stuff, you can just click right over to it. So that's my advice to you. Keep some porn open in a tab in your browser all the time. You don't have to watch it all the time. Just make sure it's there. So if mom walks in, you can just click right over to it. That's what I would do. Frigamuntavutho Pippi Dreet. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Lightning round question. Steve, analyze this song. To me, it's about a baby falling off a tree and dying. Rockabye baby in the treetop. What the hell is the baby doing in the tree? When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. Oh shit. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Where the hell is child services? Down comes baby, cradle and all. Baby died, to my understanding. So what the fuck is this, son? It's one of those fucked up stories, I guess, that we tell children. One of those fucked up songs. If you think about it, a lot of children's songs and stories are kind of messed up. Like, think about Three Blind Mice. 3 blind mice see how they run, and then the farmer's wife chops off their tails with a carving knife. What the fuck is that? Why do we teach that song to children? The worst one of all, though, is Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. You can imagine, as a young child, as I was, who had a healthy fear of death and kind of a morbid fascination with it, I hated saying that prayer. Thanks for forcing me to say that prayer, Mom and Dad, to contemplate my imminent death right before I went to sleep. What a great thing to teach children. Warlord27753, lightning round. Hey Steve, what subject do you view as more important to our species, mathematics or language? Also, 2x minus 1 equals 5. What is the value of x, and how did you come up with your answer? Okay, more important is language. I think it's more fundamental. I think you need language in order to explain mathematics to people. As for your equation here, 2x minus 1 plus 5, I would add the 1 to both sides, so it would be 2x equals 6, and then you just divide by 2, which would be 2x divided by 2 would be x, and 6 divided by 2 would be 3, so x equals 3. Louis Ang 114, where did Stuffy go? Stuffy, where'd you go?
I'm in the bedroom.
He's in the bedroom. Rockin' Rob 210. Steve, lightning round question. If Bill O'Reilly called you up and asked you to come on his show, would you do it? Yeah, I would do it. And if it started to go badly, I would try to tank on the O'Reilly factor worse than anyone ever has ever. I would try to make it the worst, most awkward, embarrassing O'Reilly factor appearance that anyone has ever had. That would be my strategy. Joe Costigan. Hey Steve, I'm 16 years old and I'm an atheist. When I was in 4th grade, I started questioning God's existence. By 7th grade, I was an atheist. When did you become a full-blown atheist? Well, you are way ahead of me. I didn't actually become a full-blown atheist until 2010, almost exactly 5 years ago. 5 years ago next month. actually. So I would have been not quite 30 years old when I actually decided to identify as an atheist. So yeah, you're ahead of me, man. Dr. Themo, thoughts on the recent Spider-Man news? I think it's really cool. I wasn't expecting it. I hope they don't tell the origin again. I would love to live the rest of my life without seeing another movie about Spider-Man's fucking origin. I know how he got the powers. I know about the fucking spider bite. Skip that. Just let's move along with it, shall we? Andy Zotel, you answered a question who your favorite Simpsons character is, but you like Futurama too, so who's your favorite Futurama character? Okay, I'm going to try to do this, and it's probably going to suck. Favorite Futurama character? What about Zoidberg? That was horrible, but Zoidberg would be my favorite Futurama character. Zoidberg would be. Which you can't really tell. You might think I hate Zoidberg after that impersonation, but no, I really love Zoidberg. Hey, that's it for the questions. Before I get out of here, I'm going to do a shout-out as always, and the shout-out this week goes to Shadow Heathen. Now, some of you may remember 13 Heathens. He had an awesome channel a little while ago. That channel went away for reasons we don't need to get into now, but he's back. He has a new channel, Shadow Heathen. It is such an awesome channel. He hosts Hangouts. The Insomnia Shuffle is a regular feature where he hosts a hangout with people and they talk about all kinds of stuff. It's really entertaining. He also has a series that he's doing now called The Power of Woo, where he sort of dissects, deconstructs, and refutes various forms of pseudoscience and New Age spirit science sort of things. The Power of Woo, it's a really cool series. A lot of you remember him as 13 Heathens. Well, he's back. In case you haven't found his channel, it's Shadow Heathen. Check it out. Highly recommend it. A really awesome member of our YouTube skeptical, atheist, whatever community. And welcome back, Shadow Heathen. Good to have you back, and I'm only too happy to give you a shout out and to point people in your direction. Go check out that channel. And one more additional shout out. This weekend, actually Sunday night, starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be a guest live on Sinners and Saints. So you can watch me there. I've been on that show a couple of times. I was on it a few weeks ago to talk about the State of the Union address, and I'm going to be on it again Sunday night, starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, to talk about all kinds of stuff. I looked at the description of the event, and we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. I imagine we might even talk about the recent shooting in North Carolina. I don't know for a fact that we're going to talk about that, but I would imagine that would come up since that's a big news story, and we're probably going to discuss that and other things too. That again on Sinners and Saints. It's Lasoyo's channel. Those of you who know Lasoyo, he renamed the channel Sinners and Saints. That's the podcast name, and I'm going to be on it Sunday night, so check it out. And one last thing before I go, and this is really cool, and I feel like this is the video to mention something about this, because I haven't really said anything in a video since it happened, but about 2.5 years ago, I started this series, You Had to Ask, in response to me gaining 5,000 subscribers. And about a week ago, I surpassed 50,000 subscribers, which means that since I started this series, I now have 10 times the number of subscribers that I had when I started this series. That is so amazing, I cannot even tell you guys, and I owe it to you guys. I owe it to you guys who subscribe to my stuff, who watch these videos, who share these videos, even the few of you who have been kind enough and wonderful enough to join my Patreon campaign to support this channel at the next level, to help me fundraise and earn a living doing this. You guys are so close to my heart, you have no idea. And to think that I started doing this I started doing this You Had to Ask show in October of 2012. And now here I am in February of 2015 with 10 times as many subscribers as I had when I started it. It is just amazing, and I owe it all to you guys. And I just wanted to say, since I haven't mentioned it yet, thank you. Thank you all so much for whatever reason, for watching this and sharing these videos and subscribing to my channel. You'll never know how much I really appreciate it. Well, on that note, since the cat is starting to scratch the couch, I'm going to have to go take care of business. I'm going to have to go be a cat daddy and teach this cat some respect for the furniture around here. Anyway, that's it. Now the wife coughs. Now it's all going to hell. It's time to wrap it up. Okay,
right.
it's time to wrap it up. It's over. The bloom is off the rose. It's time to end this show. Please leave a comment on this video, leaving me your question for next time. Ask me anything about anything. Nothing is too serious. Nothing is too silly. I will answer as many of them as I possibly can in the next episode of You Had to Ask. So until then, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.